Actually, if you must know, it was vegetable onion soup cooked with wine. And I enjoyed it. It just so happened that I had someone visit, and while they were here, the soup was done. I asked if they would be so kind to taste my soup. They did, and they loved it. First of all, let's talk about the vegetables. At my grocery store, you can buy vegetables in bite-sized pieces. You simply help yourself. They charge something like $4.99 per pound. And it doesn't matter what vegetables you get, you can mix and match them. Now, I think that's a little expensive, but then you're paying for the convenience of having these vegetables nice and cut up. And the second thing is, you simply buy the amount of vegetables that you need for that day. You could buy a whole bag of carrots, for example, and you'll use 2 or 3 and then throw the rest out. So, for my vegetables, I bought, I think, about a little over 5 ounces of vegetables, and I paid, if memory serves me correctly, I think I paid something like $1.50 for my vegetables. The other ingredients for my soup, onions, of course, after all. It is onions and vegetable soup. I did not use 2 onions, I used just 1 onion. Croutons, cheese and garlic croutons, I'll show you what I did with that later. And of course, what's vegetable soup, especially an onion vegetable soup without provolone cheese? It's kind of fun to be eating a vegetable soup and have a stringy cheese that you're sort of playing with and eating. Anyway, provolone cheese. And my secret ingredient, about a cup of Pinot Grigio wine. I like the flavor of this semi-dry wine. So I thought, I wonder what this would taste like if this was added to the water in the soup. So that's exactly what I did. Of course, it would be impossible to cook an onion vegetable soup without adding garlic. I added 1 clove of garlic, and that was sufficient. Now, this may be a little odd, but I like Scotch bonnet pepper. So as you can see, I also added some Scotch bonnet pepper to my soup. And it gave me the flavor I needed. Now, you can call me weird if you want to, because it is redundant. But what I did was, every time I buy something like vegetable that some human being cut up, I always put them in a little plastic bowl, the same bowl perhaps, and then I add boiling water to it. Okay, I know what you're saying. That seems a little redundant because you're going to be cooking it anyway. I know. Alright, I'll admit it, but somehow pouring boiling water over the vegetables sort of gives me a sort of a peace of mind. Anyway, in the pot it went, including the boiling water that I poured on the vegetable. And once that went into the pot, I began to think about flavors. The very first flavor I thought of was to add bouillon, and I did. I added 1 of these chicken bouillon to my onion vegetable soup, and I think it might have made a difference. The next thing, of course, was to chop up the onions, which I did. I chopped up the onions, and then I added some thyme. I like thyme. And once I did that, of course, all that was left was to heat up my skillet. Coconut oil, of course. You know how I feel about coconut oil. Heat up the skillet, and once it's heated, of course, I added the onions. Now, the only thing I can tell you is this, and perhaps this is just habit on my part, but I like to clarify my onion in a skillet prior to adding it to anything like soup or anything like that. And that's precisely what I did. I added onion to the coconut oil in the skillet, and as I said earlier, I added some thyme, and once it was nice and clarified, or nice and clear, I should say, I added it to my soup. Remember now, The vegetables, as you might have noticed, was cut up in little soup sizes, I think. That's a good way to put it. And to that I added the clarified onion. All that was left was to mix everything together, right? And once I did that, all I needed to do was to add my secret ingredients, which you know what it is. I poured in my Pinot Grigio wine. Maybe a cup. Not a lot of wine, just enough to give it that little bit of a flavor. The next thing is, once it started to boil, was to put it on simmer for approximately 20-25 minutes. And there you have it. Now, you may want to add other ingredients because, as I said before, cooking is a creative process. And while you're cooking, you want to be as creative as possible because, let's face it, eating is one of those things that it's a joy that we all really delight in. 20-25 minutes later, my soup was done. Now, this is the way I served my soup. At the bottom, I placed some croutons. Remember, I showed you them earlier. Garlic and cheese croutons. To that, I added some provolone cheese to the croutons. And once that was done, all I had to do now was to scoop out my soup and add it right here. This is what I served to my guest when he came in. And he thought it was wonderful. Well, time for me to go. Bon appetit. And don't forget to keep adding your comments and your suggestions. And thank you so very much for watching my videos.